Yep.
Tell you later. All right, we're at 1:01, so why don't we call the 1 o'clock meeting of the Walker Mineral Mining Review Board into session here. And we have 2 mines to look at this afternoon, but we start first with what's called general public comment. And that is a chance for anyone here who doesn't have a comment on an agenda item to address the board. So this is more of an Open Meetings Act provision. So if you have any comments not relating to the 2 mines that we have here today, then feel free to come on up. If you have comments related to the mines, then there will be public hearings as part of each mine review. Okay? All right, so any general public comment about any topic at all? All right, so that's good. So we are moving on from general public comment to the first of our 2 mine reviews. And this one is called generally the Goodale Pit and the general primary address 2851 Butterworth Drive Southwest. So the way we'll do this is I'll ask our planning director, Tricia Anderson, to go through her report and look at conditions from last year, and then some things that she has related to the plans for this year. And from there, we'll engage in discussion with the developer and get some more information. And then the public hearing will be part of this as well. Okay. All right, Tricia, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Frank. So this is the Goodale Sand Pit, and we again have Chris Miller with Naderveld representing the property owner. And the address that we're looking at is 2851 Butterworth and 2610 O'Brien. And this mine size is approximately 172 acres. The zoning district is agricultural, and the future land use designation is cluster residential. This mine is located on the north side of Butterworth Street, just east of the Butterworth-Maynard intersection. So my job is to review the plans and ensure the compliance with the Chapter 34 standards for mineral mining, and also to take a look at the reclamation plan with the eye of from the planning and zoning perspective. It's my understanding that we're pretty far out from full reclamation for this site, so that's going to, anything related to the reclamation plan as it pertains to the way that the lots are laid out and that kind of stuff will be refined as you get closer to the end of the mining here. So the 2021 conditions have been met, and those were that the active face be directed to the eastern portion of the site, and to coordinate contours with the adjacent property owner before proceeding further west. And my note here is that that's been met. Also that fence letter and soil erosion fees be submitted and for the 2021 license renewal year, that's been met. And then the bond was renewed up until October 14 of 2022. So that one we'll look at as probably needing some tweaks. I'll get to that in just a second. So the letter of credit should be good for the duration of the 2022 licensing period. In the email there's an email that was submitted as part of the application instead of the actual letter of credit document that says that it gets auto renewed every year. So we just need to see the actual letter of credit that says that the expiration date is X date, and it should be good past October 14 of 2022 and probably up until the end of February of 2023. And so I also have a note here that the reclamation plan should provide information required in section 13 of the application as a general note section. And then I have a note saying that plan sheets do not provide areas to be reclaimed in 2022. And we're just wondering if there are any areas that are planned for reclamation in this upcoming year. Section 12 of the application is a box that's checked that says that compaction tests reported by a certified density technician. We didn't get one of those or any of those for the application package, and so we're just wondering if those are available. And if so, they should be submitted. And we'd also like to see the 30-foot and 50-foot buffers right on the plan. And then we also have a note as it relates to eagle permits being acquired as you get closer to mining out this area just south of this wetland. And so it says that the wetland delineation will occur before mining phase 2. So the question is, when is phase 2 planned, and is this wetland delineation already in the works? The fence letter indicates that the fence has been installed January 14, 2022, but the plan shows a note indicating the fence to be relocated. And we'd just like to know where it's going to be relocated. And then I also have a question about the note on sheet C201 saying that the topographic data is from 2020 and that no mining activity was done in 2021. So just looking for a little bit of a clarification on that. And that's essentially all I have. I have some aerial photos here. I have a snapshot of all the Goodale sandpit parcels. This is an image from 2020. One of the areas that I noticed from this photo is this is an area that's shown on the plan as it's already reclaimed. So I'm not sure if the board wants to discuss a little bit more reinforcements here for keeping this area intact. And then this is just an image of where this wetland area is and the approximate proximity to the face that I think is being shown on the plan proposed for active mining for the 2022 year. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Tricia. Why don't we go to Rachel and see where we're at from a soil erosion standpoint, and then we'll ask the developers to come on up.
Great. I have not received fees for this yet. They total $1,243.20, and that's based on 11.8 acres. Tricia, what you brought up, that's a really good point. Those areas that have washed out, because there's proposed mining behind there, I haven't looked at it too much. It wouldn't add too much to the disturbed area, but that is certainly something we'd like to see reclaimed better in the future. Tracking out of the site has not been bad this year. I know it's being used for Kent Power in their staging area. I thought they were pulling out of there, but it looks like they're still there. They've been keeping that driveway clean, and that cattle guard has been doing a great job. And that's it for my notes.
All right, thank you for that. Any introductory comments from the rest of the board before we go to Mr. Goodale? No? All right. Well, Mr. Goodale, if you would come on up and give the presentation, and if you could show us what you did last year and what you are proposing for this year, and then your like a 5-year plan for the mine too would be nice. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we can go ahead, plan, or what was done last year and this year, we can bring that back to the topographic data comment. So I was informed that there is no mining work that happened this year. So that's why we used the same data we had from 2020, the if there's no work done, there's no need to spend the time to go out and resurvey. So we have that there, and as far as future plans, I think you are just kind of looking at an as needed depending on market and
Yeah,
projects.
right now, Todd Grassman, with the developer, we don't have any immediate plans. You know, some of it will depend on what we end up doing on the parcel west of Meyer there, behind there that we're talking to you guys on. It's more of a if needed, you know, who our contractor is using, who they're getting their sand from, is primary. If we need it, we'd be able to go back in there and grab some if we needed to. That's why we like the permit open. So we don't have any immediate plans on it, unless we need it. If we had to go back and take a look at some of the erosion, Rachel, we can take a look at that. If we gotta clean that up a little bit. Before we dig into phase 2, your question regarding the wetlands, we get it delineated. Use the same guys we're using on the other projects we're using to get that done beforehand. I think there was a question on the fence. I think the fence, what we're looking at doing is there's that deer farm that's there. That's being de-permitted, I think would be the term probably. And at that point, when that fence needs to come down with DNR, I think it is, we just make sure that they're connected. Because I think that was part of the continuous fence that we had, the portion that was up against the top of the hill there. So we just connect those and make sure, I think it can't be an 8-foot fence is I think the idea there. So those are the main answers. I can't remember if you had any other questions.
And then the reasoning for leaving that label on the plan would be because nothing occurred this year, so looking forward, when that fence needs to move, we'll have that note on there.
Let's do this. Let's get the public hearing open so people, we may have some comments out in the audience, and that way we will know what is on people's minds, and then we can engage in discussion and try and get some questions answered from the public too. So could I get a motion to open the public hearing? And support somewhere in there, I heard. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the public hearing is open for the Goodale sand mines. If you have any questions, feel free to come on up to the podium. And if you're willing, if you would offer your name and address, and we'll try to get your questions answered.
Feels so official coming up here. So my name's Jackie Bauman, and I live on I'm super nervous, so. I live on the property that butts up to the driveway that Mr. Goodale drives on. And when I was looking through the paperwork that came through for this meeting, I was just a little bit concerned because the first thing that caught my attention was that the property lines are slightly skewed. And so what is deemed as the mine property is like going through the corner of my house. And then the red barn that I wish was mine but is not, is actually on my property. So I just thought that those couple things should be corrected. Not that anything's gonna happen right now, but just for future reference so that we don't lose track of that somewhere along the line. And then I got a little bit, so I have a couple things. I didn't know, I called Frank Walsh, but none of you are him, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm
you
him.
are.
Yeah.
It says Gary Carey.
I know, you have to ignore that, yeah.
Okay, so Frank, I'm Jackie, and you
Jackie.
called me today. And I do have a letter if you want to submit it, and it just has like my concerns in it, but I'll just quick, for sake of time at this meeting, I can just quick go through some of the things that I'm gonna ask Mr. Goodale just out of the kindness of his heart, not because he owes me anything or anything like that, or I'm expecting anything, but because last year they brought in a bunch of fill, not a bunch, well, it was a bunch to me, but looking at this whole map, it was not a bunch, but and the trucks were really, they were those big double barrel trucks and it was very intimidating and very loud and very dusty, and my patio is like right there. So when those trucks are going through, we can't really enjoy our patio or anything, which is not Mr. Goodale's problem. I understand it's mine, but I didn't know if he would be willing. I know he has another drive that's like 300 feet or 300 yards down Butterworth. And so as mining picks up, I was going to ask him if he would consider using a different driveway so that I have a dog and 2 grandbabies and family that stays with me all the time and stuff like that. And it just wasn't very conducive to a family environment out there when the trucks were going by. Now, KP Power, they've been using it, and they're just regular, city trucks or whatever. They've been so respectful of our property, and we have appreciated them so much because they don't look when they're driving by, and they've just been very respectful. So my first ask is if he would consider using a different driveway if it gets full bore. Like if it's just once in a while they need to come get sand, but if it's going to be for his hours of operation, which are currently listed as 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, if I had trucks going through there, I'd probably lose my mind. But a couple is not a big deal. Which brings me to my next request of him. If he does start fully mining, I'm wondering if those Saturday hours could be taken off so that we can at least be able to enjoy our home on Saturdays. Again, I know he was there first. When we bought, I guess I thought because it was reclaimed that driveway was not going to be used anymore, but and then I also didn't know how intimidating those trucks were when they started going up and bringing that fill in. That was pretty intimidating to me, probably not to him because he's used to it. My other thing I was wondering is if he cannot use the other driveway, or then I was wondering if he might help us put up a fence to kind of block, just so that, I have my dog on electric fence, but I don't know that he wouldn't just go chasing something and get run over or whatever, but just, I'm willing to help, I'm willing to work with Mr. Goodale, whatever. And again, it's only if he decides he's gonna start hauling trucks in there every day, all day long. And then that's, I think, it.
Well, let's do this. I think what you're asking really is more person-to-person, private-to-private discussion. I'll ask Mr. Grassman to maybe respond generally to you, but it sounds like he needs to follow up with you in
Okay.
a meeting to work on some private details
Okay,
of their operations.
okay,
We can talk a little bit about which driveway is primary and secondary, those kind of things. But then the other considerations that you were talking about are more private. So I'm going to ask Mr. Grassman to meet with you after this meeting, and
okay.
or whenever you folks can sit down and see what you can work out.
And but the property lines too. That was the,
Property lines, the boundaries, what we're looking at is a site plan. It's not necessarily a survey, but you're saying that the plan that we're looking at here isn't an accurate representation of your lot then?
yeah, it was the property on the CDD report, I think, and I'm not sure their official property lines or if it was just like, hey, let's draw these in.
That may be an ortho photo that is what we call an oblique photo. They're not straight up, they're on an angle. So that may be misleading if it's
Yeah, sometimes the projection gets weird, so what the data is and how it transfers to the satellite
Okay,
and
okay.
aerial photos that we take.
I figured
can
it would be
get
pretty
off.
obvious that a property line doesn't go through the middle of a home, which is what it did on the schoolhouse,
Yeah,
but,
she looks right, and it'll be a condition of mine
Yeah.
to make sure it gets fixed.
okay.
and then, also I was wondering, my question was, what's the 30 to 50 foot thing that you were talking about, 30 to 50 feet from buffers?
So the mine should have a 30-foot buffer from adjoining property, and then a 50-foot buffer from any public right-of-way. So the
Okay.
buffer means like just a distance.
Okay.
So that there's some separation between the two land uses.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Grassman, well, he's gonna talk to, Ms. Bowman was her name? Yeah, why don't you come on up and, let's engage, and then we'll open up to questions from the board as well.
So I just told Jackie, if we start mining, she'll give me a call, and we'll talk
Okay.
about the person-to-person issues
Okay.
as it relates to that.
What is your primary driveway then? Is it the one that you're using?
It's the one that's indicated there.
Okay.
That's always been the primary driveway. It's, that's the one that's been maintained.
I can't remember that other driveway.
I don't think it's ours, is
I
it? Isn't that the
believe,
neighbor?
I was looking through last year's report, and there was something in there about that driveway being closed and gated off and not being used anymore. So if it's not even on the mine property, then that would kind of explain that. But to my understanding, that driveway is supposed to be closed.
It looks like it's on the lot, it just may not be active, and I don't know if,
Looks like a gas line, because it's two-track. It leads to a little area there that looks like.
It goes down to the well that's over there. So it's
Okay,
not,
just
it's
the
not,
oil well.
yeah. That's a well road. There was another driveway, I think on the adjoining parcel when that was mined. That was an actual mining driveway, that's not ours.
So
So
that-
just,
Yeah, that's probably just a service driveway down to the well.
yeah,
because you have something to keep in mind that the access road has to be paved, I think it's what, 100 feet minimum? 300.
Right.
So that would be a thing to keep in mind
That's
if
why
the
that one.
second
Yeah.
access is proposed.
Okay. So you are going to meet with your neighbor and talk through the concerns
Yeah,
that she's
I
brought
told
up?
Jack, if Jackie wants to meet, I mean, we can meet.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. And if you're willing to do that, we appreciate it. And then let's open up for questions from the board and see if we can get some questions answered.
Unless you got questions.
Looking at the property lines here with Tricia, it does look like it's off, and that does make that driveway look a lot closer to the property line than we've seen in the past. So I think that's an important thing to get fixed. The fill area that's at the end of, the fill area that's immediately east of Jackie's home there, we've been talking about that for years, about trying to get that wrapped up. I mean, this is a great reason why, I'd like to get that done and reclaimed, and if you guys need to fill someplace, there's a whole bunch of other viable candidates on the site, right? So it'd be good to get that cleaned up as part of this year's work, even if you're not taking anything out, we still need to be working towards reclamation. I'd like to see that done. And then the erosion area, I wanted to chime in before, but I waited. That was shown at contour 750. So I have no idea where that is, because the only 750 contour on this site is way up at the top of the hill on the northeast end. So maybe if Tricia or Rachel can help me figure out where that erosion area was.
Can you bring that
Your picture?
up again?
Which one? This,
Would that have been northeast of the filling area?
it's right here.
So it's kind of right where that,
Okay.
so yeah, it is kind of in between the two proposed phases. So that's shown as kind of part of phase 3, it looks like, correlating to the plan. Yeah, so actually where the number 3 is, I estimate it's up there, or is it further down?
Well, it had a contour of 750 on it, so it's pretty high. That's what threw me off. But so it's on the area that's previously reclaimed, it looked like.
That would be up in that area there, Scott.
Okay.
It's probably just west of that well that's up on there. Sort of down the hill and to the west of that a little bit.
Okay, so that's really an active area.
Yeah, if you look in the picture, I think you can almost see the bottom of the slope a little bit.
Okay.
But
Just east of that would have been the piece that was reclaimed. I think we did seed it when we did the part to the east on the property line there. I think we sort of went along the bottom there.
All right, so that's something that you follow up with Rachel on then? Yeah,
We can,
So
yeah.
erosion issue. Okay.
Just including your monthly report, Rachel. Or whatever we look at, that works.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I'm still having a hard time figuring out if this is in an area to be mined or not.
We can take a look.
Because it looks like it's kind of right next to 3, and we have the plan notes that say area to be mined, but there's this whole kind of outline following the slope that's in the color on this page. So I'll try to hammer that down. So if it's to be mined, you know, it's running off into kind of a pit. You know, it's not gonna be hurting any waterways, but it would be something, you know, we can't say it's fully reclaimed. But if
Right.
there's gonna be areas right around it that are mined out, it's gonna have to be.
That whole
reclaimed
face goes
anyway.
down into that low spot.
Yeah,
There's no water in that area at all.
so, yeah, I'll take a look at that next time I'm in the field
Okay.
and have a little less snow cover.
All right, well, Gary reminded me that the public hearing is still open. We saw a few people come on in. Does anyone else have any comments about this Goodale sand mine? If you do, feel free to come on up to the podium. Anybody? Yes, Mr. Wisniewski, come on up.
My name's Robert Wisniewski, and we own property in Walker at 2605 Bristol. I see Jackie's been in here before, and everyone realizes her concerns in that, but I'd just like to give her maybe some insight on being a little proactive on the road and her neighbors and that too. She's gonna ask her neighbors to use another drive or whatever, but there's things she could do on her own part. Like if they planted any pine trees, they could do a few rows of those on their property, create their own buffer and be proactive into the problem rather than just ask someone else to take care of the situation. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else from the public? All right, then why don't we get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved?
Support? And all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed. Public hearing is closed. Okay, and you know, what I want to get clarified is the lot line, what I'm hearing is the lot line that's shown on the plans is inaccurate. Is that what we're hearing? Yeah, and then, because if you look at the Kent County data, it appears that the lot line should be further to the east, is what I'm seeing. So that's something that does have to be corrected on the plans. All right, because Jackie's lot, her easterly lot line is actually further east. But either way, that's something that needs to get cleaned up on the plans, so we want to have that a condition of approval.
I have that noted. One thing that was in Tricia's report that I don't think we touched on yet was the compaction test results. It said section 12 box on the application is checked for compaction test results reported by certified density technician. We did not see any of these results. So yeah, if you could comment on that.
So again, there wasn't work done this year, so just reusing some paperwork from last year, so that box probably should have been unchecked, because there's no compaction done because there was no work done. So I can get that fixed up and resubmitted. Regarding property lines, we'll double check that and make sure those are correct. Could be some old data or something going on there, but we'll make sure that that's represented properly. Yeah, we run into this sometimes, yeah.
Tricia, if you would show that Kent County. Oops, this is public information. It's right on the web, so if you want to look at it, you can jump on and just Google GIS Kent County.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks like there's a discrepancy there, so we'll make sure we have updated
Yeah.
lines,
Okay.
so.
If it doesn't change, it sounds like Mrs. Bowman might be taking ownership of the barn next door.
Yes. Okay. All right, so that's an important issue. Okay, so that needs to get cleaned up on their plans. All righty. Open it up for more board comments.
Okay, if we leave it on this picture, I think this kind of shows what I'm concerned about with the reclamation and the fill that's going on just to the east there. You know, it's, there's, the elevation, regardless of the piles, is about 10 feet higher than the reclamation contour shown on the plan. So that's really the worst place to be dumping fill, because it just has to be reworked and moved again. It'd be great to get that cleaned up and, you know, have that area done and reclaimed. And if the trucks have to drive by, then, you know, that's okay, because you were there first. But if there's continual rework of, you know, stuff and dump trucks and things like that, that doesn't seem like it's really fair. You know, that should be moved further back towards the active areas.
So what you're saying is that spot where we see all the clay that's gone in over the years, that's too high and it needs to be spread.
Well, it's too high, so you would think that that would be a bad place to dump fill that's coming into the site,
Yeah.
because then you just have to rework it again.
I
And
think
so,
we were pushing it over the edge, right?
Yeah.
yeah, but if we
We were
can
going to the northwest or northeast a little bit.
get that
grade it
piece
off.
reclaimed and take the material back towards where the active faces are. We've been, as long as you've been working for Goodale, I think we've been talking about this, so.
Yeah.
um,
And I think
Now's
last
the
year's
time.
discussion was if we would go to develop it, the concern is that we didn't have the compaction tests.
Yeah.
If we were to put roads over top of it or houses on it, we said, well, we don't have any immediate plans. We will get the compaction test. If we're gonna put a road in or anything there, we do it at the time, after we decide how much of the dirt we need for reclamation and that. So I think that's where we ended up on that last year. We won't dump any more dirt on top of that. If we dump any there, we'll push it over the edge and,
But that's the, if we dump it there, we'll push it over the edge. I don't wanna see the if we dump it there, because we keep talking about it. So that,
Oh, well, I
that'll be a
guess-
condition for me, is that
all right,
in
we won't dump it
2022,
there, Scott.
that'll be reclaimed, and, you know, it's, we can't just let that be worked and worked and worked every year. It's gotta be fixed up and cleaned. That's why we're here,
Well, we didn't do anything this year with it.
right? But the permit is still active. So you still have to pay fees, we still have to inspect it, we still have to
Yep.
meet as a group. But you've gotta be making progress towards cleaning up the areas that have been mined, and that's what this is. So as a neighbor, I can understand, you know, the concern that if you're constantly working material over right next to my house, you know, I'd be kinda mad, but if you're just driving by it, that's where the road was, your road was there first, so be it. You know, that's fair. It's the earthwork that's right next to the house that seems like it's unfair.
So we didn't do any earthwork there this year.
Okay. I think we had the same argument a couple years ago.
I'm sure, well, it was
We
what,
didn't-
3
we
years
didn't
ago we
find a
put it there?
solution.
I think we put it there 3 years ago, right?
Okay.
Well, there was concern about the material that was being brought in, and there was,
So we stopped that.
you know,
We agreed not to do that. We got rid of the material that was on the bottom there.
Yeah.
There was some of the junk, it was junk wood and that kind of stuff, so we got rid of that. We leveled it off. At the time it was higher, so we brought the dozer in, pushed it over to the north. It hasn't had any activity on it for a year, so I can't believe that there's not a whole bunch of weeds and stuff growing on it.
well, it sounds like Scott is gonna lead you in the direction of knock that down to reclamation contour, and the new stuff should go in the northeast corner of this photo, where you can see that gully erosion, where you've got, reclaimed area already? Is that essentially what you're saying? Move it in that direction, or?
I think with the exception of the reclamation contour, because that would require them to move 10 feet of material. I'd
Okay.
rather just see them adjust the reclamation plan to make it fit,
Okay,
rather than move all the material, but to stop putting more material there
Okay.
and to close that area out.
so we should really identify a spot on the plan then, that they can show as reclamation area 2022, so we don't run into the same issue again next year.
Is the bottom of that slope within our reclamation plan?
That we would ask you that question.
I don't see it. in
It's your
front of me.
site.
Why
It's
don't we
hard to
just
tell
bring,
'cause
if
they're
we're gonna
two
bring any
different
more
sheets.
dirt in there, we'll
Say
bring
again?
it, if we're gonna bring any more dirt in there, we'll bring it down the hill.
Okay, but even if you don't bring any more dirt in there, can you get that leveled out and get grass growing on it? Our reclamation limit is really low. We're not looking for trees or arborvitaes or anything. We just want grass. And if you could do that, then we know that that area won't be filled in again. It's kind of done as far as the mining goes. And then you can put the fill material where it's needed further into the site.
Scott, I'll have to get more familiar with where the reclamation area is.
Okay?
You know, we won't dump any more dirt on top of the hill there. We'll bring it down to the bottom. I think that's still within the reclamation area. And we'll just level it off down there so it's not up on top. We're not disturbing all the dirt that's up there. It'll just sort of, it'll be a more gradual area then.
Well, I'll leave that, if you want to craft, whoever's going to put together the motion, if you can make that as clear as possible.
Well, Rachel's been on a roll. I think she's been taking notes, so I don't want to slow her down.
Scott, are you talking about the area that we stood out a couple years ago, 3 years ago, where we looked at the fill and the fill wasn't in the best of shape right there?
Yeah.
That's still open, that's not seeded?
No.
Okay, I agree.
So I'm kind of thinking for the condition, just to keep it general and to close out previous fill area and work on reclamation. And whether or not close it out means to adjust the reclamation grades or move that material is kind of, we'll work through that.
Well, there's a
Or
little
like
bit of an
some-
option there, but to knock the hills down and get it seeded and reclaimed is well overdue.
All right, so close out previous fill area and work on reclamation.
I would say immediately east of the Bowman house, so that we don't argue about this. We probably will anyway, but it'd be nice to close that and be done with it, you know, and let the trucks drive by to the next spot that needs to be worked over.
Scott, you want it graded and planted?
Yes,
All right.
yes. And the elevation doesn't necessarily need to match your reclamation plan exactly, because you can adjust your reclamation plan.
Right.
Because you really don't know how this is all gonna take shape yet.
Right.
What is the address on your home? Yeah. 2901. Thank you. I just couldn't read it.
All right, additional comments? Yeah, we might as well, yeah, we'll let you have one more comment. How about that? The hearing is closed, but we try to be flexible, so feel free to come on up and if you have additional comments.
That area that they brought all that dirt in, it is really, I think they raised it quite a bit, like at least probably 20 feet from what it was originally when we moved there. So that has really changed the water flow, which I was concerned about, and I talked to Todd about it. I think it was in 2019 or something like that. And the water hasn't really, like, I worried about our house flooding because it did change the way it, and it hasn't affected that, but I still sure would love it if we could get it, like, we're at 650 where our house is, and I think they did theirs up to, I don't know what it is, I've never really looked that closely at the map, but if they could get it to the level of 650, where it was probably even lower than that when we moved in there. I mean, I totally could be wrong, so you can look into it if you really need to, but if he could, and I would even be willing to do it, like if I would drive a truck and just plow that thing down if they'd let me, or my husband would or something, you know, if it's time or money or whatever, I'm willing to help, so.
We appreciate that.
So we did talk about that 2 years ago. And what it was higher, and the water concern was brought up, because when we did go through the topographical look at it, and to determine that there is a little drainage on the east, or the west side of our driveway, that holds it, that brings it down towards the road. And we did take like 2 foot off the top at that time. We also pushed more to the northeast, to level that off and grade it, so it wasn't so high. Yeah, the water hasn't been a concern, that I'm aware of, and I think, Rachel, you've been out there a fair amount. I don't think the water's been taking the dirt down the driveway. I think it goes off to the sides. So I think we're all set there as far as the drainage on it. It's just more down the lines of, okay, where we were pushing when we level that off, where we push the dirt to the northeast, we'll grade that and throw some seed on it or something.
I think it hit
Like I said,
those-
I can't imagine that that's not full of weeds and already.
As far as the drainage, I'd have to go out there in a pretty significant rain
you-
event to see what's happening. But yeah, for the reclamation, I'm just gonna say, yeah, get to those reclamation grades, adjust if needed, but yeah, really look out for that water, and where it's going in that grading design. Any other comments?
I don't know. Any other additional comments or conditions? Yes.
I just have one question related to the phase two. Are you planning on starting phase two within the 2022 license year?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
I'm not gonna give it away, but
Well, I'm
based
just,
on our track record, I would doubt it.
okay. I would just, whenever you do get this wetland delineated, just send us what you have.
You'll be involved before we get near phase two.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I think we've got a list of conditions, so I'll hand it over to Rachel.
My notes are a little scattered on this one, so bear with me. So for the conditions for approval, let's close out that previous fill area and work on reclamation immediately east of 2901 Butterworth. Verify the property boundaries and correct if needed in between those two properties as well. Update the phase schedule to include when that wetland delineation will be done, so that would be prior to phase two. Update the letter of credit for the mineral mining calendar year, which is March 2022 to March 2023. The reclamation plan must provide information required in section 13 of the application and a general notes section. Update the mineral mining application to show that there was not density tests done this year. Show the buffers on the plan. Do we need any updates with the fence letter, or were you satisfied with that? It just might adjust, Tricia.
That's fine, if
Okay.
it'll adjust based on where the slopes are.
And my last one would be to pay the soil erosion fees prior to March 1st, or March 3rd, Monday.
All right, any additional conditions?
Oh, there's one, did we want to clarify? We should probably designate another area to bring in fill if there is fill in this coming year. So show that on the plans where that could occur. It's kind of the second part to that reclamation area.
Rachel, did you want to add soil erosion fees?
I did.
Oh,
There's a long list.
And we're a long, long way from those wetlands, so I think there's a note on there that says before phase two. That seems totally fair, because it feels like a decade away, doesn't it, at least?
It feels that way.
All right, so Mr. Grasman, are you okay with the conditions that we talked about here today?
I think we'll figure it out.
All right, we'll continue to meet with Jackie on some of the private issues, and we will go from there, okay? So we have a motion, do we have support? Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Got your permit for 2022, subject to several conditions. So thank you for that. Alrighty, last mine for the day. This one we generally call Stanley Orchards, and address is 2605 Bristol Avenue Northwest and 1784 3 Mile Road Northwest. So we'll follow the same process. I'll ask Tricia to do her introduction, look back at conditions from 2021 and potential conditions for 2022. And then we'll ask Rachel for her soil erosion comments, and then we'll get into discussion with the applicants. So take it away, Tricia.
Thank you. So, for this one, is Brad Myers here with, hi Brad. I'm Tricia. So we have Bradley Myers here, on behalf of the applicant, that we call Stanley Orchards, 2605 Bristol Avenue and 1784 3 Mile. I don't have the actual mine size on here. The zoning district is agricultural, and the future land use is enterprise on the west and north end, and then low density residential, 2 to 4 units per acre on the east end of the site. And this is located on the south side of 3 Mile Road, just west of the Bristol Avenue 3 Mile Road intersection. So this is a snapshot of the mine parcels. This parcel here is only a portion of it has some encroachment from the main parcel. And so I'll just bring up a couple of comments that I had in my report related to what's going on and what the plan is for the future. So in December of 2021, it was brought to our attention that there was a new mining contractor on the site. So it went from Cordis Trenching to USA Earthworks, and Mr. Myers sent a letter to Frank to indicate that this would be addressed and that USA Earthworks would be on the new mineral mining licensing. And so with that, he would provide the new bond with USA Earthworks and all of their information. And so it sounds like that thing has been addressed. That's all been taken care of, and we've received your new bond and all the information that would correlate with USA Earthworks. We did get two pages in the application, one with all Cordis Trenching information on it, and then another one with USA. So we'll probably ask for some clarification on that. Not sure if maybe one contractor is wrapping up and then another one is going to start at a certain time, but I'll let you guys address that. And so the reclamation plan for this one, we would like to see some of the land uses that are proposed or that could be taking place on the property once it's restored. We're in some talks with some folks who are interested in developing, particularly on the west end of the site. But as with all the other mines that are required to have a standalone reclamation plan showing what that land configuration would look like, how many acres would be dedicated to being associated with just the farm, be broken off for just the farm piece, and what a residential development could look like on the the east end of the site. And with that reclamation plan, we'd like to see all of the items from part 13 of the application in a general notes section on the plan. And again, we're not asking for an actual development plan. It's more of just a concept. We'd just like to see how the site could be developed if it were to be developed in line with our master plan. let's see, page 5 of the application asks for areas that are completed and done being mined to be shown on the mining operation plan. So I guess when I was reviewing the plans, it was unclear as to where these areas were located. And then my last comment is that there were some areas noted on the plan as over excavated. I think it's this area right here on the south property line, and the note indicates that they're properly compacted with density test results. And so I'm just wondering if we received that. That was probably a really long time ago, but if that's out there, we should probably have it. I'll just pull it up on the plan since it looks like you guys don't know what I'm talking about.
Totally understand.
Oop, it's down here. So, yep, so over excavated area to be removed and compacted, density testing required. So I don't know if that was an old note from before this area was reclaimed, or if that's, we just need a little bit of clarification on that. And so Rachel was out on the site, I think last week, and took some good pictures. This is a view of phase 1 and 2 areas in the process of final reclamation. It's looking southwest. And this building here is located at 2535 Waldorf.
Yeah, so that is looking towards the southwest, just to kind of show that area that is in process of being reclaimed. It's looking really good. It's great to see that area reclaimed too for me, because there's a large drainage ditch on the far west end of this property. That's kind of the environmentally critical area, and that sanitary sewer easement. So this is coming together really nice. They just have some small piles that they'll have to smooth out. I'm pretty sure though it's just about fully to grade. So we can go to the next photo. I can just narrate.
Go ahead, yeah.
So this is up a new mining access to access the east side of the site. So kind of where you see Walker Woods Court and the grading at the end of that. I'm just to the northeast of that area. So this actually might show a little bit of that over excavation area that was noted on the plan. And just to kind of add to this as well, one of my upcoming comments is going to be updating, showing where these mining access roads are coming. And then this is kind of a view of the active slope looking north. So just on the left side of this image, that's where the main access road that goes out to 3 Mile is. Sorry I didn't include it. That would have been a nice reference. But you can kind of see that face is very active. This has changed a lot just in the past couple months here.
So those are all the comments that I have.
Okay, well, thank you, Tricia. And Rachel, do you have any additional comments related to soil erosion?
We just need the fees. It's 19 acres are disturbed this year that I received from Brad, and so that totals $1,416. And yeah, my big note just about the haul road, we need to show that. The plan currently shows kind of this haul road through the center of the pit. That doesn't work with how it's graded, and because we really want to make sure that's kind of staying off this grading at the end of Walker Woods Court. And yeah, like I said, the reclamation on the west side of the pit is really coming together. It's finishing up. And a big area where there's a lot of material storage just to the west of the main driveway on the north, that's been getting smoothed out too. There's a lot of stuff, topsoil stockpiled there for a while. That's it for soil erosion.
All right. Any preliminary comments from the rest of the board? Well, let's do this. Why don't we open the public hearing? We do have people in the audience, so I'd rather open that and let them come forward with their questions and concerns. And so let's get a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Do we have support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the public hearing is open for this mine, so if you have any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to come on up to the podium, and we'll do the best we can to get your comments answered. Going once? No? Going twice? All right. Well, why don't we get a motion to close the public hearing then? And support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, public hearing is closed. And Mr. Wisniewski, we'd ask for you to bring your team up here and tell us what you did in 21 and what you're proposing to do in 22 and when the sand mine is going to end. And the city's hearing a variety of development interests, so we're all ears at this point. All right. That's the way to do it. You got it. All right, thanks, Brad.
Okay, I'm Brad Myers with Myers, Behe and Nace, representing Stanley Orchards. This operated, a little background on us in case somebody isn't familiar with us. This has been an ongoing venture since about 2006, 2007. And it's been running fairly constant from that time, minus a couple years when the economy kind of took a downturn, and it sat for I think at least a year, maybe 18 months, where nothing really happened. This past fall, what has transpired is we have added another operator to the mix on this operation. It's kind of a joint deal between two operators. What our thought process behind that is to try and get this thing wrapped up by December of 2023, be totally out of here, reclaimed, and down the road. Get it wrapped up. There's been a lot of how should we say, intrigue into the site. And that's why we're kind of at the point we are right now. In this area right here is where the most of the activity is taking place. This area we're showing under construction for 2022. In this area here, we have a huge pile of overburden. That was material that was taken out of here. What happened was in 2020, 2021, they had a buyer, proposed buyer for the west. There's 40 acres here, the west 20 acres. The buyer said in the agreement they had, they didn't want anybody back there. They said we don't want dirt moved, we don't want anything, we want it the way it is. So the material that we had slated to go back here had to go someplace. It went up here. Now we're dealing with that because this deal did not work out at that time. So we're trying to reclaim this whole west half is what our goal was for this past year. We wanted to get this taken care of. But we've run into issues up here with the amount of clay overburden we have. There's in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 feet of clay on top of the sand. For economic reasons, it's not real great to remove 20 feet and have to move it and compact it and everything. So we're in the process of trying to figure that out at this particular moment, which way we're going, and we'll have several meetings about that. The area where we had the undercut or the over excavation, we noted this box right in here, is where it was over excavated. What we will be doing, my note was designed to state, we didn't have any compaction tests in that area, okay, when it was filled back up. We're gonna excavate it, test it, bring it up to the proper grade in that area. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on in that particular area. We've adjusted some of the grading back in here in phase 1 and phase 2 to accept some of this overburden. We're raising the site in the back between 5 and 6 feet at this particular moment. But we're kind of at a standstill at the moment on this because of the weather. We have been trying to get in there, and we tried to, last month, tried to get some good testing in there, and the clay was too wet. So we could not get our testing, and we just stopped at that point. It's got to dry out, retest it, and get it done. We did get a couple of, in this area over here, we've got a couple of good tests. I can forward those density reports on to you. But it's about every other day we have testing done, depending on lifts. Lifts are going in 8-inch, should be able to compact it really good. We've with the addition of USA Earthworks, what that's also allowed is the equipment, the manpower has greatly increased. Ron does a good job out there, don't get me wrong, but it's a little different operation. USA Earthwork has been dealing with Kent County Road Commission, their new office. They're doing the site work out there. And they needed about 65,000 yards on that site. So a lot of this material is running over to their facility over there. So it's a great fit. And USA Earthworks has some other sites in this area, and they will be marketing sand for those. Mr. Cordes has his contacts, and he's still running material out. He's not being squeezed out or anything at this, either one of them. So it's a joint deal. I just want to make that clear. They're both bonded, licensed. If there's anything else we have to do, we'll do it. But this coming year, our plans are to first clean up this area, reclaim it, get out of there, be done with it. Get our density taken care of back there. Then also get rid of this big, it's about 15,000 cubic yards of material of overburden that's on top of 20 feet of clay. So we've got to get rid of that. We're filling in this bank on the north side. It was a pretty good picture in this area where it was dropped down. This has been, in the last couple weeks, Mr. Cordes has been out there and has sloped that down. We'll still have to do some work on the slope. I don't think it's quite there, but I think he needs a little more material there. So we've got plenty of material right here to get over to it. Right now what we're trying to do is make it as feasible as possible and follow all the rules that we need to follow as far as dealing with our overburden. I don't think from a standpoint either Mr. Cordes nor the USA Earthworks is going to be real thrilled to move 20 feet of clay to get the sand. I don't think that's gonna, but we're working on some option there. And we might have to huddle with Scott to figure out a couple things. Either additional undercut or we slope it and call it a day and clean it up. And then whoever comes in with a site plan will have to deal with because that's the highest point on the site is what's left. And that's where the least advantageous material is. We're hoping to find, and we thought we had it wrapped up with somebody that needed about 60,000 cubic yards of clay. That would have been ideal, but that kind of fell through. So it is being marketed. I will do my best to try and come up with a scheme for this as far as future land use. answer any questions you might have at this time.
All right. Well, thanks for that overview, Brad. I'll open up to the board for comments and questions.
I'm a little scared about two contractors being out there when you look at putting 8 or 10 feet of fill on that west half.
Only one contractor's doing that,
Okay, I think
just USA.
that'll help you a ton in terms of your being able to put your seal of approval on it.
Correct.
So how is your density testing going to be performed?
We have material testing there like every other day. I've been on site quite frequently to see where they're moving the material, and Mr. Wisniewski also keeps track of that. If they get a lift, in working with USA Earthworks have been very good. They call and say, hey, we need to do this. They're under the gun at Kent County Road Commission for the same thing, working with a site that's totally clay and just having lots of fun. So they know what they have to do, and we're in there monitoring as often as I believe that needs to be done.
Okay, I guess my vision is 5 years down the road, and we've already seen a couple of layouts that would have enormous industrial buildings here.
Right.
And somebody comes in and then southeast corner of their building sinks 2 feet. You know, you guys have got to protect yourself as
Correct.
previous owners, as engineers.
Yes,
So I think making sure you get that information to us, making sure it's understandable,
Right.
it's all very important.
right. And we've been I've been working with material testing is doing our work out there. And I've been working with them specifically on location, so that we can nail that down.
Okay.
If we have a bad test, we're back in that same area. It's reworked, and we understand that this is building footprint. That's what people are looking at for this particular site. And we don't need any issues with the material. It was working very, very well until we had rain and a lot of snow. The clay was good coming out of the bank. The clay that's piled up on top wasn't so great. It was still fairly moist from 3 years ago or 2 years ago when it was put there. So we're probably going to have to go into, much like they had to do out at Kent County Road Commission site, any other site that we deal with clay, is small lifts, let it dry, disc it, work it, and then get compaction tests on it and go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a quick question about, with both contractors on site. So I'm not sure if both need to be bonded or if just one should be bonded.
Both.
Okay.
That's the way it's set up right now. I would stick with that from the standpoint.
Okay,
It just gives us more, it protects everybody, I'm thinking that.
okay. So if that's the case, then we'll just need an updated bond letter from Cordis.
Yeah, if he hasn't furnished it, I thought. Yeah, I thought, it is, yeah, I think we. Yeah,
Okay, if you have a copy, that would be helpful for our file.
yeah. I didn't see it. Yeah, the bonding and everything, I would assume would stay, everything stays the same. They're both insured, soil erosion permits, everything is through, running everything through Stanley Orchard, and then it's broke down to Cordis and to USA Earthworks from that point.
If I could jump in on there regarding the soil erosion permit, you mentioned having a goal of being out of there by December 2023.
Yes.
I just want to say that, the soil erosion permit has to stay open until everything is vegetated, or there's a new owner with their own soil erosion permit. So that might be something, depending on if the property is transferring hands, to talk about that. There's a transfer form that can take care of that. That's just all things that, especially with the December closeout date, obviously the whole thing isn't going to be vegetated then. That's something to keep in mind. And as far as which contractor is doing what, the soil erosion permit does come down to the property owner. So really it's just adding contractor contact information in there. So that's all taken care of. I did want to note that I forgot to mention earlier that clay overburden stockpile. There's some silt fence that was added this past year in response to one of my inspections to the northeast of it. If that could just be shown on the plan, since that's hanging out. It's not every month I can get all the way over there to check it, but you know, when I can get up there, there's quite a bit of wash off into it, and we just want to protect that existing drainage that continues on to the northeast. And then just in your summary, you talked about that over excavation. How much was that over excavated by?
Matt Double from USA Earthworks sat next to Mr. Wisniewski.
I didn't personally see it.
When I saw, in there, I would think they were probably 10 feet.
Okay.
We did not physically get back there to shoot their lowest level that was there, but we will have that excavated. We can kind of tell once, you get to a certain level, where they were at, and then we'll have them bring it up in 1 foot lifts, and we'll get some tests on that area. But it looked like it was isolated to that one area, and then when we spoke to them about that, that took care of the situation.
Yes.
On the reclamation and get rid of soil erosion permit those areas. We got a potential buyer. I mean, can we be brought to grade? Are you going to require us to put on topsoil or something first? And then when we come 2 weeks later?
Can you come up to the microphone?
Sure.
The person who's taking the minutes isn't here, so it's important for you to talk into the microphone.
You gotta push the button.
All righty, now you can all hear me. All right, reclamation. We do have potential buyers. They're trying to get one. And that's part of the reason bringing the clay up in the back, because of elevations. They all want to put up a bigger building, and we've got it graded to 1% grade. And they put up these huge, long buildings, and therefore they'd be sticking out of the ground on one end. So, yeah, we're bringing that up to grade, but then are you gonna require it all topsoiled or something for us to move on? Or,
That will not prevent you from moving on. It's just the buyers, you will have to transfer the soil erosion permit existing to the buyers, since they're gonna be taking this open land. So that's really just something you have to deal with at point of sale. They have to be made aware that there's an open permit, and then they will, because they will be the property owner, they would have to take over the responsibilities of topsoiling and seeding it. One of these plans would work great to show final stabilization as they move through, whatever site plan they're looking at, et cetera.
okay, but they're accepting that responsibility.
Yes.
If they're gonna tear the site up anyways, they're not gonna have to.
So in our one previous example of this, somebody came into the planning commission and got approval for a big plan like this.
Yep,
And then we took that plan and used that as the soil erosion control plan and let the miner off the hook. So
Yeah.
that becomes the active construction on the site, and you don't have to get grass growing because they would just come right in and mow it out.
okay, then.
Right.
Then I guess that answers my question.
And then because they'll probably be moving through planning commission and things like that with a different plan, and that's gonna take a long time to review, they'll just kinda use this adopted plan. So let's say they want to not do anything, they will be responsible for the reclamation if, they decide to not build anything. It's really just making sure there's a plan in place in the meantime while they move through the planning commission process.
All righty, answers my question, thank you.
And if you're interested, I can share with Brad too, just the permit transfer form, just so you have that and you're aware of the legal language there.
All right, any other comments from the audience? No? Brad? All right, final comments from the board and crafting of a motion.
Rachel, I would say one condition to consider if you're gonna go for the slam dunk and get the last motion in here would be, that all the density calculations and reporting be shared with the building official. that's super critical here. We wanna make sure that we don't lose track of documents.
Yeah.
Make sure that, as soon as they're submitted in here, they're given right to the building official in the street file, and part of the record.
Tricia, if you wouldn't mind getting that into our BSNA system for these properties. Good way to track it. Yep. Okay, thank you.
So we are looking for an updated reclamation plan still then for the future development, Tricia, or are we gonna kind of wait on that?
I would be interested to know what Frank's thoughts are on that.
Well, it's tough to put together, some of the mines in the south part of town, which we know are going to be subdivisions, a large lot or cluster. Those are pretty easy to just kind of throw a map on with projected lots. This one, I don't think we know. We've heard so many different options thrown at this one. I think the best we can do is get the finished grades on there, pretty much what they already have, I guess is the way I would look at it. And maybe they put a note on there that there'll be no truck routing to Bristol Avenue, because we've heard that already, and Bristol is not a truck route, so the trucks will need to go to 3 Mile. I think that level of detail is probably all we need for now, because regardless of whatever they would put on the plan, it's gonna be different than whoever comes in the door. As long as these folks are well aware of the master plan, and we worked that up with you folks over the past several years. So yeah, I would say that's about the level of detail we need right now. I don't expect them to be able to drop a road system and projected building locations, just because, think of all the people that we've had come through, and everyone has a different idea. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm good with that.
Well, building on that, I can list the rest of the conditions. Oh, you have one?
Yeah, just with USA Earthworks coming into it, and Frank already touched on it about the truck route. So they're well aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, especially working up at Kent County, they can sneak.
Yes, there was discussion, when they first, came in about, well, it's a lot, no, you can't go there where there's a sign there, and it's specific, so we haven't had, to my knowledge, I don't think there's been any issues with that. Once in a while, we'll see somebody kind of coming into the pit, but I haven't, and we've got, something that was introduced, this year too, was, cameras in the pit. So we're tracking everything that goes on. So if you have a question about somebody, some truck, let us know. We can help you.
Okay, otherwise I usually call Bobby. So,
Yeah, yes.
All right. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion. If Rachel, you want to take that one for us?
Yes, I'll start with the easy stuff. Pay soil erosion fees by March 3rd. Show the new haul road on the plan. Show soil erosion controls around the overburden stockpile to the northwest or northeast there. Share all density testing documentation, including that over excavation area, with our building officials so we can have that on file. Show the truck route on the plans. I feel like I'm missing one.
Do you want to add the Cordis bond?
Oh, Cordis to provide the bond documentation.
Bond documentation.
It sounds like we already have it.
It is continuous, so unless you cancel it, I can provide you with it, but unless you physically provide it or release, it's still active.
Okay, I just didn't see it in the application materials. We can get with you after the meeting for it.
Can you provide a copy? That would just make it easier. Okay. We can make a copy before you leave then. Okay. Yeah.
And we still wanted a reclamation plan that just shows a concept?
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, the reclamation plan that Brad's put together is pretty comprehensive.
Okay.
As long
So we'll
as
leave
we're
that off.
just declaring that, it has to be consistent with the master plan, and Bristol Avenue is not a truck route. Those are the 2 things that will help us when when potential builders come in and they're like, well, we want to do this, this, and this, and we're like, well, you can't use Bristol as a truck route, so let's not plan on that. Otherwise, I think we're okay with what we have.
All right.
All right, we have a motion on the table here. Anybody with further comments? If not, I'd look for support.
Support.
And why don't we do all those in favor say aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you for your patience. You've got your permit for 2022. And we'll see what happens on this one. Thank you.
I would like to mention the two well-mannered gentlemen in the audience.
Yeah,
Very, very commendable.
yeah. There you go. Good for you. Okay, let's see, do we have any other board member or staff comments at this point?
I think we need to have a discussion about this, the over excavation, especially in the mines that are, for our future,
Yeah.
unbuildable.
Yeah,
Because some of these things getting 20, 30 feet
Yeah.
deep, if it's in the very middle of the site, then it doesn't have any impact on the neighbors, but if
yeah,
it's off to the side, it has an impact on the right of way, on the neighboring
Sure.
properties, on safety, all those things come into play.
well, yeah, let's plan that for a lunch meeting and we'll get together and use real examples, right? We can look at some of our real mines and then figure out what the issues are and how we need to amend the code one way or the other. The one thing I want us to make sure is that, given the climate, in the last couple of years, there have been bills out there to essentially take away all local control over sand mines and gravel mines. So we've got to navigate those waters carefully and make sure that if the mineral is there and the site can't be developed in the future reasonably, that we allow them to alter their plans and go down further as long as they can fill and grade back.
I think in the past, we did that by saying only 90% compaction required.
Yeah,
Because they could dump stuff in the hole,
yeah,
drive over it once, and it's literally,
90%.
that you've got it. So the density test isn't even important on those.
Yeah.
It's the sites like this where it's super important because you've got wet clay, and getting to 95% compaction is really hard.
But even in those sites where they're not in development, there's still adjoining properties that may be, so I'm not, hydrologist or anything, but we still gotta watch that water line and where that water, cause water flows underground, right?
Yeah.
So, that would be a question that I've had, cause I remember way back even before I started here, some people got in trouble in Alaska, getting into a water table and having to, so.
Well, that's my concern for the Shoemaker site, because we know there's a perched water table there. And they hit that wall and they, let that pressure out, all that soil being removed, and all of a sudden the water just comes out. We haven't seen that on a lot of these other mines.
Well, the Goodale site could be the same kind of a candidate
Could
as they
be.
move further north and you get towards that wetland. All of a sudden one day somebody goes into the bottom of a 100-foot cliff, pulls out a bucket of sand, and then, the whole thing comes down.
Something's holding that water in there, so my guess is some kind of an iron concretion layer or something is shaking itself out to hold water and sand to make a pond on the top of the hill.
Mhm.
So that's one where we,
There's one of
as
those in Maynard Pit too. They have that
Yeah,
elevated
it's true.
pond. It's a little
Northwest
bit
corner.
further back from where they're proposing, but it is way higher than the bottom of the pit. It's almost due north.
Cordis? Is that the
Yeah.
Cordis side?
Up towards Joe
Yeah,
Taylor's property.
I know it,
Yeah.
yeah. So something's holding that water, right? Otherwise, in sand, it should just go
Right.
Yeah. it would just
Anyway, we can
follow.
do that during lunch, though, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll schedule something.
And the other thing I was gonna say is, election of officers. We used to switch back and forth, and
Yeah.
I think we said, let's try to get some new people involved, and it'd be good to have a new chairman potentially.
Yeah.
This is a great place to learn how to run meetings like that and get some experience.
Well, we have, what do we have? We have a chair, vice chair, and a secretary, right?
I don't know if we have a secretary,
We
do
just
we?
have a chair and a vice chair.
Yeah.
So I'm open to whatever you want to do. I've been doing this for years, and throw it out there. Volunteer.
Well, I would propose that Rachel chair the next year's meetings, and you be the vice chair so that you're right there to help her. And I might even start to step back a little bit and have Travis come in on my behalf. So maybe there's a chance in the next couple of years to get him a chance as well.
And also, I'd like to get probably Jake involved in some of this learning process, because, you know, I didn't know much about it, still don't know much about it when I came come into it, little, you know, the common knowledge, but a lot of the history and stuff like that was with Mark after he retired, but, so, not that I'd step away from it, but I don't know how we, you know,
If we could get Jake added as an alternate, that would be
Yeah.
really good.
yeah.
That's what Travis has been. I think he said in a couple meetings, but we've always kind of felt like I've been here forever. I should be here to answer the questions that everybody forgot. And, you know, at some point, that's going to go away too. So,
Well, I think that institutional knowledge of all that kind of stuff, you know, and I've had 3 or 4 years of it, or I don't even know, 3 years, but, you know, like standing out on that hill and talking to, you know, Goodale's operator there and all the crap on the hill, right? And if they're still working that, why are they still working that? And I agree with Scott that we should be done with that. That's good neighborly stuff right there, to clean it up and, you know,
there's no closer point to that woman's patio than right there, and that's where they choose to dump all the fill every time.
yeah. No, but a lot of that's institutional, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I'll still keep answering questions during reviews and stuff like that, and can even come into the meeting and sit in the audience if I need to, but it's good to get a little turnover. If you're okay with it.
I'm fine with it, you know,
If I can have you help me
yeah.
with the talking through everything and when I need to ask for seconds.
Essentially just getting a bullet point list for the discussion, and if you stay on that outline, you can't go wrong.
I wanted to mention too that I really appreciated Trisha's fresh eyes on all this stuff, and the list was great. It was super organized. It helped keep me focused of what I was looking at. So, and you really caught a lot of the stuff that we've gotten a little, like the buffers and stuff like that. Like we've kind of backed off that a little bit, and I go to these mines every single month, so I get a little like a lot of them don't change much. So it was really good to get those things tidied up.
Well, thank you, because I felt pretty blind going into this, and,
And now you have eyes.
yeah. And, you know, I think I've learned a lot from this first go-round. What to do, what not to do.
Yeah, the key is, you know, we've seen, I think when Scott and I first started on this, it was a completely different kind of board, and it was Wild West, and deals were being made, and we were like, this is not right, you know? We've got to organize this. These mines used to be reviewed by the Planning Commission, and then in the 90s, I think the later 90s, they created this board, you know, and got it out of the Planning Commission venue, which is good. But it's come a long way, but it still needs to be fine-tuned, you know? So every year we gotta resharpen that sword,
Sorry.
so.
If there's a way to update that mineral mining application, cause yeah, it seems like they kinda just submit the same one every year.
Yeah.
I'm always looking on it and like they could just update the disturbed area on the application. I'm like, that would be, the one of them just says plus or minus 5 acres. I'm like, what? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of like, just taking what was there and just kind of refreshing it, or just not refreshing it at all and just turning in what was turned in last year. So I think if Laura and I talked about this a little bit, and we decided that, you know, this year we'll just kind of get through it with,
Oh, yeah.
you know, me being new on board with it. And then next year definitely make some changes to the application so that it's easier for everybody to, you know,
Get that summary.
yeah.
And I think with Chris, he's new blood. We can get him in the habit right away of updating those.
Yeah.
Well, you heard him say he just recycled one of the forms,
Yeah.
and that's been going on for 30 years.
Well, when did Brandon Simon leave Niederveld?
I don't know.
I feel like that was recent. It's just like
That's in the consulting field right now, it's like musical chairs, because I'm not gonna get 7% increase here, I'm gonna get 15% over here. They're bouncing back and forth like crazy. There's tons of recruiting going on. We're gonna see a lot of moves.
He went to Progressive apparently.
Yeah, I emailed him and it automatically populated with Progressive, and I'm like, when did that, like, when I typed in his name, I'm like, when did that happen? Why is it already in my email? He was really nice and, you know, helped Chris along a little bit, even though he's not at Mayorville anymore, so that was nice, but.
I feel like if we had more, like I've heard you guys talk about these drone photos. If we were able to just do our own drone photos
There's
every year.
rules against that for a city. We could hire somebody else that has a drone that's in the private world and they could do it, but if
Yeah.
we in the public world do it, you have to have a pilot's license, which
Well-
is no easy task, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's just hire somebody
Yeah.
to do it.
Our consultants
Yeah.
all have drones, so we would just have to, you know, say, here's what we're looking for, go get us half an hour's worth of shots over each of these pits and be helpful.
They would, Brian Newhoff would just work it out with the property owners, the mine owners, and just get them to sign off.
If we wanted to go that route.
Could you request
I don't think that we need the permission.
as part of your
You know.
application?
It's just like a planning
Yeah.
commission application, right?
Yeah, but we should add that to the application, that you allow the city to overfly your site with a drone, take those images, and then use them in the subsequent public meeting. You know, I think that's just good practice, as opposed to just zipping around taking photos all over.
I mean, can we, or alternatively, could we say that they have to provide them to us
I was just
every other
thinking
year,
that.
so then it's no cost to us? And then it's not every single year, which I
Yeah.
don't think that'd be totally necessary, but, cause we are already gonna be getting our aerial imageries, we should be getting another update this year, so I think that's every 2 years now that we fly that.
Well,
And that
that's
would
the
kinda
thing.
Cover that gap year.
It updates in like April or May.
Yeah.
We did get the Connect Explorer updated images, but they're super few and far between.
Sometimes they get weird, yeah. I'm not
Let's talk
quite
about that in our
sure.
lunch meeting, because that's a really good topic, and there's lots of ways to go at it. You know, having them do it themselves, that's pretty easy for us. And like a Naderveld, I mean, I'm sure they have a drone.
Yeah.
They're into everything, so.
And the
Easy.
beauty of it is, if they do it, then they'll already have the waypoints in there where they can just drop the image on their CAD plan. As opposed to us, because otherwise we're just gonna get images, it's be like, okay.
That was the hard part when we were getting those images, was trying to think,
What do
you know,
do
where's
with-
the property line? We have no idea.
Yeah. Let them snap it to their CAD, you know? And
Yeah.
we may have seen a couple of those this year where they had those those images on CAD, and those probably drone photos. So I'd be all for saying, hey, you need to, every other year you need to do an overflight.
I
Snap
think
it
that's
to your CAD
reasonable.
plan.
And then, yeah, if we could just start it on a year that we're not doing our own, so
Yeah.
yeah, next year would work.
Yeah.
If it was 2023, we'd probably just have to let them know a little early,
Yeah.
though.
And that's something maybe you can work with Laura on, to get that application updated into a PDF, a fill-inable PDF.
Yeah.
And then send that out and add on there the box that, you know, whatever it is, it'll be odd years, you'll need to provide, the overflight imagery snapped onto a plan.
Okay.
And we might want to tell them, images captured from the fall.
Yeah.
Because so that they don't go out in January and, I didn't get to
Oh,
it.
cool, it's snow.
Yeah, because I think that's when we were having them flown, was, in the fall. We used to actually go on tours
Yeah.
as a group to these sites and look at them.
I went around to go look at the sites, but some of them were like I didn't want to like drive into the Goodale site.
It's,
I just
You need a buddy
What's
system for
that
that.
truck?
You need two
well,
people.
and, yeah, and it's good to have a city vehicle too, because like, I know in Meekow.
I was in your vehicle
Oh, okay.
with no 4-wheel drive. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that until I was like
Mine's,
driving
we can
uphill
borrow
on
a
snow.
truck. But yeah, the first time I took that tow and a mining operator chased me down because he thought I was just some kid going off-roading. I'm like, well, a little bit.
You're like, not in this vehicle.
No, you should be getting 4-wheel drive towel down the road here. 'Cause they're all-
Yeah, mine's getting pretty run down. It's getting there.
All right, well, good discussion. So we'll follow up with a lunch meeting to hit a couple of those items. Otherwise, how about a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
And we are adjourned at what time is it? 2:36? Alrighty, thank you.